everybody. My name's Denise Lamadou. I'm a fiber artist in the Midwest, and I have this channel just to share things that I think you might find interesting if you like working with fabric and projects. Today I am getting some strips ready for making a rag rug on my Union loom, and I see a lot of questions on Facebook that make me think that maybe other people have questions about this and would like to know more. I've been making rag rugs for about 10 years on and off. I do other things, but when I have a good pile of fabric to use up, this is what I use it for. Today I'm going to be working with strips in various colors in the same color group, tan, which earth tones seem to be the most popular at my shows. So I've got strips of tan, a roll of the stripe, and some paisley, and I'm going to mix them together. I'll start with the solid, then a strip of the stripe, and then a strip of the paisley, 1, 2, 3, and I'll repeatedly do that, sewing them together, and at the end I'll have a big ball that is easy to put on my shuttles to weave. And the other thing is the repetition makes an automatic pattern when you go to put these rugs together, which is cool because people think you planned it out and you really didn't. Anyway, you will find a lot, if you're new to this, you'll find a lot of debate. Some people don't like sewing the strips together. I find the weaving goes a lot faster when it's sewn together. The other thing is when it's repeatedly washed, which rag rugs generally are, they hold together. There's no loose ends to come out. It's just a better quality rug, and if that's what you're after, you should take the time to do this. And I'll spend a week or so getting strips ready and sewing them together and making big balls, and then when I have a good collection, I can do 10 or 12 rugs on the same warp on my loom. So you know, it just works better. You can also do this if you're doing, you know, manually putting rag rugs together. This is still a good way to do it. You can do it this way if you're crocheting baskets or whatever you're doing that requires a lot of strips. This is the best way to assemble them. I'm working today on my Singer. I have a Janome, but I use that for free motion, so it's easier not to set it up every time I change projects. So I use the Singer for that. You don't have to do anything. Just make sure you got a couple extra bobbins wound because you're going to go through a lot of thread. I'm just using some off-white thread from Hobby Lobby since these are lighter tones. If I were working with navy blues or something, I would use a blue tone. All in all, it's your choice, but cotton polyester thread is great. But really, you can use anything you want as long as it's strong enough. Obviously, no serge or thread or anything like that. I keep a needle in there, about a 10 or a 12, whatever I seem to have as a general purpose needle. Anyway, I'll get started right away. I'm going to stop so I can readjust the camera. Hold on just a second. Okay, here we go. First, I'm going to get one of my tan strips. And as you're taking these apart, I should also mention you're going to get wads of thread like this, like here. So I just pull them and make a pile. And there is something you can do with all this loose thread. It's not totally wasted. So I think it's cool to just stick them aside, get them out of your way. They're not going to hurt your weaving, so if there's threads left when you're weaving, just ignore them. They'll get tucked into the weave and nobody will notice. And then I think I'll do my next strip as a stripe. And as soon as I find the end, here we go. It's a long one. I put faces together. This is the dark side. And I do a 90-degree corner. I don't know if you can see that. Just you're putting one strip and then the other strip going at a 90-degree angle. I put it under the machine. I hope you can see this at a diagonal. I'm going to go corner to corner. Let me quick do it. So when it's done, you're going to trim this away later. I just leave it on for now. But the fun thing is I don't stop sewing. I just stopped here so you could see that, but I'm going to take the other end of the stripe, and now I'm going to use the paisley that I have. And once again, 90-degree angle. Then I'm going to go from the inside diagonal. So there I go. And I'm going to do a bunch of these. Now I'll repeat with that solid. And I'll do a bunch of these till I use up all the scraps, or at least an even amount. You always have a few left over, which you can mix with something else later. So I'm just going through on my diagonal. And the reason being, if you were to go straight across, let me show you. If you go straight across, what happens is when you go to weave, you're going to have a big lump. Sorry, I'm trying to get this end here. So okay. Sorry, I had to pause it there. I was fighting with this thing. Anyway, if you were to go straight across like a normal seam where you put everything together and just go straight down, when you, here I'm going to show you what happens. I mean, if this doesn't bother you, go ahead and do it. But what happens is when you're weaving, you're going to get a lump. It's not as obvious with the sheet material. These are old sheets. But when you get to any kind of thicker material, you're really going to notice it. It just is better to have a bias cut. So say I screwed up, no big deal. These are scraps. So I take my scissor and get rid of it. And just pick up where I left off. So I'm going to make one continuous strip, and it's going to be huge. But once I do, we'll come back and I'll show you what to do next. Hi, I'm back. It's been fun. Anyway, I saved this last little bit to show you. I already trimmed most of what I've been working on, but just to let you know how to do it, remember those scenes we put over here? Maybe I'll turn that around so you can see it better. At this point, I'm cutting those away. Don't worry about being precise. It doesn't matter. This is how it looks on the other side once you're done. So when you wrap it on the roll, you don't have any lumps. It comes along pretty well. The other thing you might come across if you're new to this and wonder if it's okay is this strip might be skinnier than this strip. That's okay. Also, strip cutting is a thing of its own, and I will have a video about that. But at the moment, I just want to point out that when you're working with strips of sheet, your strip should be wider than they would be, say, a quilting cotton or something heavier, because when you bunch it up on the loom, this is going to take a lot more width to make the same bulk as, say, 1.5 inch strip of quilting cotton. So keep that in mind. Sheets are the widest. I usually do those at 2.5 inches. Once you've played around with these things, you'll get better at it. So anyway, I'm taking that strip that I sewed together, and it's all joined because I kept sewing. So I just take my snipper. By the way, I got my better scissors. I had my awful scissors before. Anyhow, so I trimmed that away, and it's all on a big pile on one side of me. Unfortunately, I can't show that very well on this video, but you get the general idea. I'm just letting it pile to one side. I'm trimming off this and then feeding it. And I promise, guys, as I get better at this video stuff, it will be clearer for you. So there's the end. So just remember, you're cutting away the scrap from the seams you sewed. You're letting it pile on one side of you. Don't lose your end, because you'll be digging in the pile. And believe me, I've done it for quite a while trying to find that end. So now I'm just going to make a ball. And getting it started is probably the biggest challenge. And you notice I'm just scrunching as I go. I don't care that it's flat. Doesn't really matter, because when you're making a rag rug or crocheting or whatever, it's not going to be flat. So I keep this going, and I want to get to the pattern part to show you. Now, when you're weaving, you want the colored side out, not backwards, because it's significantly lighter, so that messes up your pattern. And I'm sorry, here comes the cat. Go away. So, sorry, I have a house of animals. So kind of crunch it up that way. If it isn't on the outside at this stage, like right here, that's okay. I'll fix it when I put it on the loom. So sorry about my cat. Let me get rid of him. So anyway, we just keep rolling that around. And at this point, I'll pause it so that you don't have to sit here and watch me do this. Okay, I've got it done. And this is what I have. This probably won't make a huge rug, but another thing I do is make a narrower loom warp, a narrow warp, and make runners, table runners, out of the smaller ones. This here is one I did earlier, and this will make a good rug. This will make probably a 40-inch rug. I roughly guesstimate, and it's rough because you're not really working with yardage like you would for quilt making. 8 yards would make an average 24-inch wide rug by 40 inches long. So that gives you a guesstimate. A set of sheets mixed with maybe one other pattern would make a nice size rug. So when you're mixing these, now you could make them all the same pattern or solid, it doesn't matter. I just find that the accumulation of fabrics that I have to work with, no one fabric is going to make a whole rug. And once you're on the loom, you really can't adjust it like you could if you were sewing. So when you're working with toothbrush rugs or any of that kind of stuff, you gotta have to plan ahead, or you're gonna end up with a nice, beautiful rug that measures 10 inches. So you have to be careful. In other videos, I will go over how I prepare these strips, and also I will be doing a video on the actual weaving, so you can see how this progresses. But meanwhile, if you're new to it, some things you're going to hear and you can decide if it works for you. I rip the rags. I don't, if it's an easy fabric like the sheets, because it's just easier. It doesn't take, I don't have to sit here and fold and flatten and waste my rotary cutter. I just sit there and watch TV and rip the sheets. It's fine. Some people are very particular and want everything exact, and that's fine. It makes a nice rug if you're that way. I just know that I'm selling these rugs and I'm only going to X amount of dollars for it. People won't pay more than the market will bear, so there's no point in putting in those extra hours. Plus, I'm not a very OCD person. If you watch my videos, you'll figure that out. So have fun with it. Check your linen closet. You probably have a whole bunch of sheets that should have been replaced, but you hate to throw them out. This is a good way to use them. Meanwhile, welcome to Fiber Studio, and I'm Denise. Please do all the things you're supposed to do, like me, subscribe me, all that stuff, and keep your eye out for other videos in this category so you can continue to learn more techniques. Thanks a lot.